Recording in progress.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 11th, 2025 Public Works Committee. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Gold. Here. Alderman Erger's absent. Alderman Lockmiller.
I'm here. Move on to approval of the agenda. If there aren't any changes, can we approve by acclamation? We will so do. On to citizen comment. Anybody in the audience or online? Oh, let's state your name and your address.
My name is Clayton Keeney, 2654 Dorothy Avenue. I'm here today to speak again regarding the parking lots at the northeast corner of Dorothy and Manchester. My issue is not with the existence of the parking lot, but it's planning and construction. None of what Brentwood constructed there would have been tolerated by the building department, by any other entity except Brentwood. This lot consistently flows sediment onto neighboring properties into MSD storm drains when it's raining, and then it blows dust around the neighborhood when it's dry. The lot was constructed in a floodplain where I'm not sure, I don't think there was any floodplain permits pulled, no rise certificates pulled. There was hundreds of yards of cubic yards of gravel dumped on the site after there was hundreds of yards of soil dumped onto the site. Beyond that, any other business building a lot like this would have had to have a stormwater infill development permit, which I don't think Brentwood did anything like that either. Last November, my building had a foot of water in it. My neighbors behind me on Ruth were completely flooded, and I was within inches of being flooded at my house. There's rules for developing in floodplains, there's rules for material selection, and there's rules for stormwater control in the city, and I think the city should follow them also.
Thank you, Clayton. Octavia, anybody online? Move on to committee chair and alderman reports. I just have a quick one. I'd like to thank our Parks Department, really all the staff, for the Christmas party last Saturday night. I know the Parks Department had a lot to do with it, but it seemed like the behind the bar was well managed by the administration department. So thank you very much. It was a good resident outing, and enjoyed it. Moving on to Alderwoman Tice.
I will just say ditto to that. It was a great party, and the move to the new park has been great. It just brings a much younger and group of citizens and residents, and it was a wonderful party. And if you didn't know, the reindeer with the huge antler, 1 year old. So, thank you.
Alderwoman Goad.
Wanted to say thank you to Public Works for plowing the streets in a timely manner. It was very nicely done, and I saw some great teamwork between the trash trucks and the plows trying to make some tight corners. So it was really nice to see, so thank you for that.
All right, we'll move on to item 5, which is a presentation. I think we have a presentation regarding Mount Calvary Park. Eric, I think you have this with the SWT.
Yeah, so more than anything else, we just had the public forum, and we'll talk a little bit more about what SWT heard during that. But I just want to pass this over to Scott, who will kind of start the presentation for SWT.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Scott Rundy. I'm a partner with SWT Design. So the things I want to cover with this presentation is kind of go over the overall goals of the project, talk a little bit about the context, the materiality, talk about the master plan that we did last year, finished up last year, and what we've kind of progressed from that. Want to review the schematic design concept that we've prepared, talk about cost estimates, phasing. We'll talk a little bit about sustainable sites and how that applies to this project as well, and then we'll kind of wrap things up with project schedule and next steps from here. All right, so project goals. One of the bigger goals for the park in general from the master plan perspective was to provide needed park amenities and needed park space in the western kind of portion of the city, fill in those gaps in level of service. For the this specific park property, a main goal for the programming was, provide a combination of active, passive, and really flexible use spaces, and ensuring that that's compatible with the surrounding context with it, which is neighboring residences. We want to provide gathering spaces with pavilions and then amenities that support that, like comfort stations. One of the big concerns and things we're going to be monitoring and making sure that we're mitigating throughout the project and with the design is drainage and stormwater management. And then another big focus of this and goal is making sure that we're creating an actionable plan that could be implemented through a phased approach. So, important part, first step as far as our design is conducting an overall site analysis, make sure we're understanding the existing conditions of the site. That's what you see here. I'll kind of talk briefly about it. Things we're looking at is topography, how the site is shaped, drainage, where water is flowing onto the site. Existing trees are important. We want to preserve those as much as possible to add to the comfort to the site. We're also looking at circulation, both from vehicle and pedestrian circulation in and around the site, but also looking at utilities as well. So storm sewers, sanitary sewers, utilities to power some of the amenities on the site. As I mentioned on the kind of goals, a very important part of this project is looking at the drainage patterns on the site. Make sure that we're correcting existing drainage challenges present on the site and making sure that with our park development, we're mitigating any stormwater issues as well. So this map here kind of shows, our initial analysis of that drainage patterns on the site. Roughly 2/3 of the site drains towards the west of the side of the site to an existing BMP. The other third kind of drains to the northeast corner. You'll see in our design concepts here, we're exploring ways to kind of direct and corral water on the site to the existing and expanded BMPs, stormwater collection areas. As we kind of start looking at designs, we kind of begin with, what's the inspiration, what's the materiality, what are kind of driving the overall concept of the site. This kind of image board kind of describes some of those inspirational kind of materiality ideas that we're looking at. From a landscape perspective, looking at more natural native plant types, looking at screening buffers, things that provide texture, seasonality. We're looking at a variety of spaces, so open, flexible green space, more kind of passive space, but also balancing that with some active areas with play elements. Looking at different materiality with a natural aesthetic, with incorporating wood elements into various site features like furnishings, play equipment, natural rock for natural ledge rock for retaining walls, but then also stormwater, incorporating pathways and trails, connections within those elements as well. So kind of back to the master plan that was completed in 2024. This was the original concept for the master plan. So kind of the driving element that we developed from the feedback to kind of provide the programming desired for the site. So that included a kind of central pavilion shelter space, open flexible use space on the west side of the park, incorporating a playground element. On the eastern side of the park, the intent was to kind of have a natural play focused playground element that was incorporated within the existing tree canopy on the site. This also incorporated a buffer kind of surrounding the perimeter of the site and looking at stormwater improvements to kind of help mitigate some of the stormwater challenges we're hearing about on the project. So more recently, we've been working on kind of initial concept designs for the park. So we started with two concepts. Concept A was more formal geometry, kind of more focused on maximizing the loop trail, maximizing the flexible open space on the west side of the park. This had the pavilion kind of centered in the middle of the site, along with that kind of central access and along with the comfort station, and then a playground area on the east end of the site, all kind of organized in a more axial and and a formal geometry for the overall concept. Concept B, we looked at more of kind of a natural curvilinear geometry to the site with the loop trail that runs along the perimeter. This concept, incorporated a little bit more natural feel, natural elements. We also, with this one, shifted and clustered the pavilion and comfort station towards the front of the site. We felt that had, better visibility. And this also incorporates a more kind of natural play element as well. Sorry, I got a little bit of a lag here on the presentation. Yeah. So, after discussions in reviews of the initial concepts, we moved with concept B as our preferred alternative concept plan. I think the things that were desirable about this one was the natural geometry, the natural layout. The way we're working with the existing topography on this one was seen as desirable. Shifting the pavilion and clustering the pavilion and comfort station together towards the front of the site. Another aspect of this that we really liked was the incorporating the trails and the boardwalk elements in with the stormwater elements. See that as an opportunity to promote some educational activities on the site as well. So we've developed that a little further with a schematic design concept, add a little bit more detail. And once that goes up here, that's what we are showing here. And we had a workshop just before this to kind of present that and gather some feedback on this schematic design concept. So this is similar to the sketch you just saw, similar elements. We have the loop trail that runs along the perimeter of the property, the natural play area integrated on the east side of the site, the stormwater integrated into the northeast portion of the site, and then expanded along the west side of the site. This kind of shows the soccer field. We're intending that to be more flexible, open use space. We're showing the soccer field as a footprint just to give an idea of scale. That's a U10 size field space. Also, showing the pavilion, the comfort station kind of towards the entry of the park space, and then using the topography to kind of shape the field space. Those would incorporate some retaining walls at the two pavilion areas as well that run along the center of the site. This is just kind of a programming diagram. So, this kind of helps show the different zones of activity, different zones of use on the site. So we have a vegetative buffer kind of wrapping around the perimeter. This shows the BMP wetland areas, the plaza pavilion spaces, the flexible use space, kind of the medium green color surrounding the play area. We're intending that to be more naturalized planting areas. So a lot of the west end of the site will be, turf lawn to provide kind of flexible open space. The east side of the site would be more integrated with a natural kind of low profile meadow planting area. This kind of shows some of the circulation patterns on the site with the loop trail, the boardwalks, and kind of the center walkway. And these are some conceptual images that we pulled together for the kind of the various play elements that we're thinking about for the site. So we're trying to maintain an idea of, kind of providing a tree fort style kind of play structure as a key component to the playground area, but also incorporating supporting elements with swings, climbers, inclusive spinning elements. The intent with the concept behind these is, more naturalized materials, so using wood or wood-like material to construct the features. So the next series of slides are, just a couple of renderings. This is of the entryway looking into the park towards the comfort station and pavilion. This is looking west towards the flexible open space. This is kind of a bird's eye view overlooking the playground area, the natural playground area. This is a kind of a close-up perspective view of the BMP or rain garden on the west side of the property, showing how the boardwalk with the trail kind of integrates into that space. This is a view of the kind of secondary smaller pavilion space in the center of the park. And this is a view of the kind of an eye-level view of the trail that kind of runs through the naturalized planting area. This is kind of more zoomed out view of that flexible open space, give you an idea of the scale there of the site. So from a cost perspective, we looked at two phasing options for the site. So this first option is more kind of front-loaded on the implementation and the budget of the park development. So this phase one would really be focused on setting up the site for future phases, the more passive elements of the site. So this would include the earthwork, the grading, utility rough-ins, the stormwater improvements, incorporating the loop trail. This one also incorporates the comfort station as well. This would also, focus on providing some of the perimeter buffer plantings and successional tree plantings. Phase two, this focuses on the construction of the playground and that kind of central core kind of piece of the park space. And then phase three focuses on the pavilion space. So phase one, our kind of estimate budget here is around 2.1 to 2.2 million. Phase two is between 850 and 950,000, and then phase three would be 750 to 850,000. So our second kind of phasing approach here, this provided a little bit more balanced budgeting between the first two phases. So similar to the first concept would be, focus on the more passive use elements of the site, focus on the stormwater management, the utility rough-ins, the grading. This one differs a little bit in that the comfort station, we're shifting to phase two. We felt that made sense, with the added activity of the playground, incorporating the restroom building along with that. And then this one would also have the main pavilion at the front end of the site as part of phase three. So the phase one budget on this one is roughly around 1.5 to 1.6 million. And then the phase two is 1.4 to 1.5 million. And then the phase three budget is 750 to 850,000 for the budget. We also took a look at sustainable sites. So I'll turn it over to Chantal to talk a little bit about that.
My name is Chantal Block. I'm a civil engineer and a partner with SWT. Like Scott said, when we were starting to talk about what the site could be, we were thinking about the sustainability of the site. And one of the ways that we sort of measured how sustainable this site could be was to put it into terms of the Sites Initiative. So the Sites Initiative, for anyone that's not familiar, is very similar if you have heard of LEED for buildings. It's similar to LEED. It's a sustainability rating, but it's for outdoor spaces. So it's a certification that can be applied for projects. It does not have to be applied for at the beginning of a project, but the sustainability portion of it goes through design, construction, and has some provisions in there for maintenance. So the earlier you start the process, the better chance you have. I know that Brentwood has a sustainability plan. The principles of sites line up really well with the sustainability plan. So if nothing else, it's a really good way to have some metrics to show that you're aligning to the sustainability plan that Brentwood has. Of course, the sustainability and resilience, just sort of a blanket term, also protecting biodiversity, boosting the resilience of the native landscape, mitigating climate change, making sure that resources are conserved, making sure that you're protecting public health, providing essential benefits to the community, and really looking for a verifiable approach. So this is all encompassing, right? It's about environmental health, it's about human health. So that was kind of the lens that we looked at it with. And I don't want to press it twice. Okay. So this is just a scorecard for sites. And what we did when we were looking at this is go through all of the credits and had a group of people within the office kind of voting on, yes, absolutely, I think we can achieve that credit. It's a 50-50 toss-up, or no, we can't achieve that credit. And once we went through all of the credits, which I'm not going to name all of, but are here if you have any questions about them, we came to about 113 points. So 100 points will get you a gold certification, 85 is silver, 70 is certified. So those are credits that are likely achievable, to be determined if it's something that would be integrated in the site that everyone's interested in, right? But it's possible. So it's just something to think about. We'll talk a little bit more as the process goes on. Okay, pass it back.
Close us out here on the project schedule, next steps. So from here, we've got a lot of good feedback here tonight. So we're planning on making some design refinements based on the feedback. We'll confirm our phase 1 scope and direction. And then the next step would be to commence construction documentation, permitting coordination on phase 1 project. We have review checkpoints at 75% and 100% design. And then we would advertise the project for bids. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to you guys' questions if you have any.
Presentation.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, so I just want to start with, this is so incredibly exciting. Like we didn't own this park, this land, and it was potentially going to be houses, and the city bought it, and we're going to have this beautiful park. So thank you thank you for design work. It's really amazing. And it looks beautiful, and it'll be something that our city can be proud of for generations. So thank you. I think I just sort of will say at the public meeting on the record here, it seemed like from the residents who were here for the open house before, people were very enthusiastic about the plan and the design. Lots of concerns about water runoff. All of us who live around that land have dealt with water runoff, some more than others. So we appreciate the effort that was put into working to deal with that. So just some comments, like even a little thing about the comfort station. It's nice that it's up front. Just even if you were bringing things, eventually there'll be a pavilion there, and to have it up front, and you were going to drive your car, you could get things to the pavilion if you were having a kid's birthday party or something. So just having that up front, and it is safer. The police can then drive in and see it, because they're even now, there are lots of kids who hang out back there. So on the field, I guess this is kind of a question for Eric. Is the vision that it's just sort of an open field that the residents can use, or are you thinking that if a team needs to practice, they could use that, or would you even rent this out? So what's the long-term vision for that open space?
The vision primarily is for it to be kind of a passive green space, so that we heard a lot during the master planning process that residents kind of use that as an area to kind of throw a ball around, just put a picnic blanket down and do things like that. So we wanted to be cognizant of the fact that we lost the soccer field as part of Brentwood Park, and there was always a desire to figure out if there's another place we could put it. This shows that we could use it if we needed to. But we would not stripe that thing year round. We would not have goals sitting out there all the time. Our goal would be to try to keep it as passive as possible.
Okay, yeah, we at Thanksgiving, our family plays football there. There are lots of people who just use the field. So if it was always striped and you couldn't use it, that would be a change. So that's a nice way that seems like you're going about it. So then, and can we get more information about the site initiatives goals, just to kind of understand what, you don't need to go through it tonight, but just so we could read and understand what that does, and are those elements we would just incorporate anyway, so it's sort of a no-brainer that we would apply for this, or this, what's the...
In my mind, and I'll let Chantel talk, she's obviously the expert too. One is I can bring back more information at another committee meeting, or I could just put it in my weekly report to kind of give you guys the basics. It is the fact of wanting to be good stewards of our property and good stewards of the city. And especially as we move forward with sustainability and things like that, it makes sense to kind of start thinking about those things. When we kind of did Brentwood Park, we kind of started designing towards sustainable sites. We didn't apply for anything. I'd like to at some point. Just kind of because it's kind of a feather in the cap of, hey, we've done this and we did it really well, and we're making sure we're sustainable as possible. So a lot of the things that we are doing or would be doing would be the stuff that is we're going to gain points for sustainable sites anyway. The water runoff, the management of that, trying to keep stuff as natural as possible. All the things that we're talking about already. And so there's, so yes. And did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it.
And I can give you some more information about sustainable sites in the near future.
Great. Well, it seems like an ideal site to do that because
Yeah.
so. No, it's great. So thank you.
Yeah, and the only other thing I was going to add from what Scott said is one of the reasons we kind of pushed everything up front was for utility concerns too. That way, all the utilities are coming through that parking lot. So instead of trying to take everything back further and trying again to be a little bit more cost cautious, was bringing that up front. In addition to all the stuff you talked about, it helped out with budgeting as well.
Oh, and I said thank you, but I'm not quite finished. So can you talk a little about the timing, because that wasn't here? So just the timing that you're thinking within your budget that this could be possible.
So within my budget, my goal is this year is to look for grants that we can apply for this. We have one in mind. The Land Water Conservation Fund is a federal grant. We've received it in the past for the playground at the Brentwood Sports Complex. That was a Land Water Conservation Fund grant. So we feel pretty comfortable that we think we should be able to work on that. We're also going to look at some more unique ones because with that story of being able to work with the partnership with the church, I think might make us a little bit might make us eligible for some different interesting funding options. So we'll keep looking for that. That's kind of our Q1, January, February idea to try to identify the grants we're going to apply for. My goal is if we can get some good grants and get everything ready that we can try to work at 2027. But my goal is to try to get this. This is kind of our next big project for the Parks Department. So we want to make sure that we continue to be good stewards of that land, work with the church. They've been really great with us. The neighborhood's been really great with us. So we want to be able to provide something in that area as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you have, the project looks great and very nicely thought out for just as a nice addition to the town. I have three kind of groups of questions. The first is for the where the soccer field's going. Do we have to regrade that out? And when we regrade it, are we grading where the water will run towards the field or the water will run towards the houses?
I will take this, and these two can yell at me if I'm wrong. But everything, we're trying, basically that side of the park will grade toward the BMP. So you'll have a little bit, this area down. Sorry, rain garden. So the area down here where we're going to collect the water from the water runoff, so everything will kind of slope this way, and I think it'll run the whole length of the west side of the park, but ultimately it will drain into the BMP, into the rain garden.
So we're creating a space for the water to go other than towards the houses by creating the rainwater area?
I'll let Chantel say it better
Because
than
I can
will.
nerd out
Can I
on
just
it.
jump in and can I ask that, we heard a lot of people complain that there are problems there currently. So could you address what you found and then how you're going to remedy those problems and what we may be adding to?
Absolutely. We can kind of start from the top with that. So Scott showed a slide before that showed the natural watersheds of the park. So it goes to the northeast and sort of to the southwest end. We're widely maintaining those. So that's usually the best thing to do, is not to try to fight what's already there. Your question about whether it would be graded differently than now, it's going to be approximately the same as it is now. When we look through the construction documents of the bioretention basins, and if I say BMP, I just mean the rain garden, the stormwater management. There's too many words for it. When we looked at the construction documents for them, it mostly indicated that the capacity should have been there for design, but it wasn't necessarily constructed the way it was designed. So right now it looks like the water ponds up to an elevation where it spills over the berm and into the backyards of those houses. it appears that's what's happening.
Does, as I hear from lots of those neighbors, so it definitely does that.
Okay. So the way that we would be fixing it in this is that what is the bioretention basin right now along this west side is going to become a swale, so a ditch that will collect the water that's flowing across the site and then into a deeper bioretention basin here. So this is the same sort of idea as what's happening now, but it's going to be quite a bit deeper and it's going to have more capacity than it has now. It'll also have an overflow grate, which the one now has an overflow grate as well. The grate on this one will be set at least 2 feet lower than the adjacent berm, so it'll be a lot safer in a storm event. In any case, there will not be any overflow outside of the bioretention basin. It'll be directed into it, and then it will flow into a sewer from there.
For question number 2, for kind of on the same theme of the area with the berm, are we creating any permanent water structures that some friendly Canadian friends may want to live in long term?
No, so these are designed to fully drain within 48 hours, but that's through the entire, so it's about 4 to 6 feet deep. That's how long it would take to completely drain through the entire thing. Typically, you won't see water on the surface past about 12 hours after rain, so no.
Question number 3, maintenance costs. So, like, I love the walking trails, but I also know those have to be maintained and taken care of. The parks are clean, trash pickup. Are we looking at needing to add staff? Are we able to do this with the existing capacity?
No, I think what we could do everything within our current capacity. What we have right now is basically a big open field that we go out there and we mow and we keep trash out and things like that. So we'll be a little bit more, when you think about a pavilion and restroom, there'll be a little bit more day-to-day cleaning. But we're also talking about the east side being more natural, so we wouldn't have to mow as much. And then really just kind of mowing around that main green space. We're confident we can handle all that within our current capacity.
Well, do you need anything from us at this time?
Not this time. This is just kind of information, and if we make sure that we're on the right path, and it sounds like based on the meeting before and this that we are, which is wonderful. We're excited about this, and we'll keep working on it.
And will it be on the city website, the presentation we just saw?
Yeah, I'll make sure we get it on the website, and it'll be on the Public Works meeting, and then we'll also put it somewhere else. Right?
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. It was a great presentation and taking the time to meet with citizens. I think it was really important. So thank you. All right, we'll move on to Department and Commission reports. Eric, don't go too far because you're Parks and Rec Director, so.
Just have a couple quick things for tonight. I did most of my work last month. So the Oak Tree Park Trail, we've got some notification. We've kind of noticed a recurring issue of mud collecting on the surface of the trail, pretty much between what we call park proper and then Litzinger and Rosalie, that corner right there. And so what has happened is basically all the water's coming off the hillside. It's coming across, it's building up mud and some things. So basically we've created a lip on the side of the trail. And so the water can't get all the way from the hill all the way across to the creek. So what we're gonna do, it's a good winter project, is we're gonna basically re-taper that whole side, grade it so that way the water can run properly. And we'll make sure it gets to the creek as intended. And then the big thing is I think we did it when I first got here, is making sure staff stays up on that. So make that in a regular rotation once every November, December, January. Again, good winter time. Make sure we're looking at that and seeing if we need to retaper it from time to time. So that's the first thing. Any questions about that? Great. The second thing is Pack the Park. If you know anything about me and my staff, we love alliteration. And we talked in September about looking at maybe trying to combine the summer concert series and Saturdays in the Park. As we mentioned, Saturdays in the Parks have been incredibly successful, even if it's Saturday mornings where it's still hot. We're getting a lot of people coming out for kind of a family atmosphere type thing. And then the summer concert series, we haven't been as we love it. We love the event, but we want to see more attendance, and so we'd love to see more people in there. And so, what we talked about it at the meeting, and kind of you sent us back to kind of think about it a little bit more and talk with a little bit more about staff. And what we want to kind of do is kind of combine the two events so that we really have what we think is a family-oriented event that will be a little bit longer. So usually concerts are 7 to 9. And we'd start like 5:30 and 6:30. Start with the family stuff first, maybe even have a show down in the amphitheater for kids. That way the parents can come, let the kids kind of run around and have some fun. They can kind of get set up for the concert, have that kind of going until maybe, right around that 8 o'clock where that the band takes their first break and then come back and then kind of end with the concert. So we really like this idea. We talked a lot about when we should do it and things like that. And our thought process is we'd like to keep it on Friday. We want to see if doing this will drive attendance. And if it doesn't, then we can talk about maybe a Thursday night or a Sunday afternoon or something else. But we wanted to give Friday night the first shot. So that's what we'd like to do. And I know staff is incredibly excited about what we can do. And, so that's the gist of it, is that if we're okay with kind of doing this and kind of creating one little bit larger event called Pack the Park, that's what we'd like to do.
Just one question. So are you envisioning just one Pack the Park, or
No,
the three like you've done before?
Correct. We do 3. We do June, July, August like we normally do. Yeah.
Okay.
No, sounds nice.
I just got an unrelated question. I think, we had some damage by, down there at Brentwood Park by somebody on a mini bike or whatever. Was there any bad damage, or was it?
We're still looking in. The thing we're most concerned about is damage to the turf and the playground. We'll have to roll out the event lawn. Well, there's rutting and things like that. So next week when it warms up a little bit, actually it'll probably be a nice time to kind of get the roller out, kind of re-level it, reseed what we need to reseed. And then we're really kind of going through the playground a couple times to make sure we don't miss anything, that there's something because it's, when you're talking about the seams of that grass, or you're talking about the poured-in-place playground, if that starts to get damaged, it can be a problem pretty quick. So we should have some more information. My staff is out there every day. We hope to have something by the end of the week and early next week with the better weather to make sure that we caught everything.
Anybody being held financially responsible?
The police department is doing a wonderful job identifying who the kids are out there, and we're working on that.
So since we were already talking about Mount Calvary Park, the writing in the current Mount Calvary Park is rampant.
Yes.
So it's just, there's there's less to damage, but I'm sure there were ruts in there. The snow was just covered in loops. So
yeah, we did notice that. The only problem that we had is that with Brentwood Park, we're able to identify them because of the video. When we do new projects throughout the whole park system, we'll put cameras on all of our pavilions to kind of help with those type of situations in the future. I did talk to the church, and they said they've noticed the kids out there from time to time, and they asked if it was okay if they called the police department. I encouraged them to do so, and so hopefully we'll start to kind of mitigate that here in the future.
All right, move on to the Sustainability Commission. Eric?
No report.
All right, thanks. Moving on to Planning and Development. Whitney?
Good evening. The November monthly building reports, there were 145 new building permits and 869 inspections. There were 8 new code enforcement cases with 22 inspections. Last night was the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had 6 items on the agenda. One was a request to postpone to the January meeting. Jet's Pizza carry-out and delivery conditional use permit at 8824 Manchester was recommended approval, so that'll come before the Board of Aldermen in January. The T-Mobile at 1201 Strassner within the Hanley Station development received a recommendation of approval for the conditional use permit, as well as for the comprehensive sign plan. However, there are some recommended modifications to the sign plan that came out of P&Z. We also then had a presentation of with H3 Studio of the commercial design guidelines, and it was a good discussion, and it was continued to the January meeting for additional refinement. The Architectural Review Board met, on December 9th, and we had 5 items on the agenda. One was continued to the next meeting, and the others were approved either as noted or as submitted. And then the Board of Adjustment met on December 3rd to review 2 request variances, and those were both granted. Yeah.
Just a comment. Thank you for helping the neighbor on the 8600 block of you lately. The neighbors understand what the permitting processes were going on. So I think that seemed well received.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being involved in that.
Whitney, I know you said it was postponed, but the building at 350 Hanley Industrial Court,
Yes.
new building, what is that and where?
That is part of Carboline. You may remember they had gotten a site development plan approval last year for the renovation of the existing structure that is non-conforming. They have determined that the building is not structurally sound to make the modifications for code that are required. So they are looking to do a tear down rebuild. They were reducing the nonconformity in the front, but it did still require a variance on the rear, which was granted at the December 3rd meeting. However, they're making adjustments to the building before it proceeds to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So,
Bless you. And then we've got the big vote coming up.
yes.
Monday night.
Monday, we will have the continuation of the ICC building codes, and then the tree fee ordinance is also up for second review.
Has there been anybody else come, any stakeholder or HBA? And
No, but we worked very hard to go through everything again and make sure it's in there. There are a couple of modifications regarding what was presented here the last time, so we will go through those, particularly the fire pits and just some other cleanup items. So,
can you give us a taste on how? So we opened the meeting 3 months ago. Nancy did, and the public portion. Now, do we close the public portion and vote? What's the mechanics at the board meeting?
Oh, that's a good question.
I believe we continued it till, and it was a certain date, which will be Monday.
Yeah.
So the mayor will gavel it open again to continue it.
Yeah, it was my understanding that the public hearing part of it was already closed. So we did the public hearing while comments are always accepted. It was my understanding that the public hearing part was already open and closed. We did the first reading of the ordinance, and now we come back, and now it's just the second reading and the finalizing of the ordinance itself.
But you know what? We will confirm with the city attorney.
It's good to ask Jim.
Yeah. It was opened 90 days ago, so it's been a while.
Any other questions for Whitney? Thanks, Whitney. Moving on to Public Works, Dan.
Get several different project updates. The first one, McKnight Road, we did meet with TAPCO this morning via Teams. They informed us how to get on the Smart Hub software and then like what it could do for us. This is for that pilot program crosswalk there at McKnight. Some of the neat stuff it can do, it actually monitors the system in its entirety. So if there's a light that's out, it'll tell you which side of the sign and which light's out. It had an accelerometer, which I didn't know what that was, but basically once the signs are in, you set it to 0, and if somebody strikes the sign or if the wind blows the sign too hard and bends it, it reports it to you as that the sign is no longer plumb. Other things would be like voltage, the number of interactions with people pressing it, not pressing it because it does have like a remote. The board temperature and the voltage of the batteries is the most important, because if those are out, then the thing's not going to work. So they still haven't given us an exact date when they're coming down here, but at least we got the first part done with the software. And then once it's hooked up, then we have a 5-year subscription that's free. They do have other smart sign programs that you can add to this software. And I said, well, is the subscription just for the one? They said, no. With the free subscription, you could add like a radar speed limit sign, the flashing stop signs, like over by York. If you wanted to know, do people make a complete stop, it'll have radar that feeds back and forth. And then we can actually set up like teams as the admin. We can give police or whoever permission to look at the crosswalk and any of these other signs. So that's pretty cool.
Can I ask a question about the
Yeah.
crosswalk? That's a great at that stop sign at York, so that would be a really neat add-on if there's no additional cost to that. And then does it also track like the cars that go through the crosswalk once it's triggered? Because it's
I don't know. I'm interested. Once we actually get, to put our hands in the mix, so to speak, we'll be able to see what it does. I know they showed us one that they had in Wisconsin and it had a camera on it, which is what we're getting too. So you can see, like, if someone activates it, you could actually go back in time and look at that video clip to see if it was a person on a bike pushing a stroller or whatever. But that's a good question. If you press it and people don't stop.
that's what happens now. So
Yeah.
there are lots of people excited about it, but I just wondered if there was a count so that at least it seems silly for someone to go back and manually look at the camera and count the cars that went
Right.
through, but if it had an automatic
I know
counter.
it counts how many people have traveled through there, and it gives like a little node, and you can click on the node and it'll take you back to that. So you could query like the whole day, like today, if we had it, you could query just today how many people went through there. It can calculate like the peaks, like number of trips within a certain hour time frame you put in there. Especially, I thought, well, if it's, during the summer, it's like how many people actually do use it. I don't know. We'd have to put a camera now. You wouldn't need that. And it will have that same light system like we have over by Memorial Park. So at night when you press the button, it's got a dusk to dawn sensor and it'll light up across the crosswalk bar, so you'll have better visibility. And it's all solar powered, so we're off the grid. So sustainable.
Do they have any type of device that's not, I use Strassner a lot, and I'm surprised how many people cross without pushing the button. They just start walking right across, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, this new system actually has like a beam, and if you break the beam, like on a bicycle or you're pushing the stroller, it automatically presses it. That one that you're talking about, you do have to physically press it, and then it starts flashing. So I'm interested to see how the passive system works and how well it works.
I agree.
If you're standing there, I don't know why it's marked unless you're visually impaired. But yeah, if we like that, I would say you try to put it to that one because it seems simple enough to add. It's just a couple bollards with a beam, and when you break the beam, it triggers the system. 288 Hanley Industrial, we did route the CRA forms. It's for some roof repairs to the office and then a small portion of the warehouse that won't be part of the reconstructed area, but it is, defective. The fire suppression folks confirmed they'll be out there on the 22nd rather than the 15th, but that'll fix the fire suppression system such that the heads are replaced and the antifreeze system is improved. And I know this week with the colder weather, we had staff repair a plaster ceiling in the offices that aren't being used by the tenant, and that's done as of today. So that's something. And as weather permits, if it's super cold and we can't do outdoor work, we'll just keep going back there and improving, either filling in drywall, cracks, paint, things like that, just to improve the offices. Over on Manderley, the 2832-2828, the access agreement for the retaining wall. We're nearing the execution phase. I know the city attorney has contacted the owners. We've got some legislation that's prepared for the board meeting on the 15th. So you'll see that. As soon as they approve it, I've already reached out to the contractor. He's trying to figure out like a date when you could go in there and start working on it, because you have demolition, creation of a modular wall. The restoration would probably have to wait till spring because there's some seed and straw that needs to be put down. And then we're working with the property owner to take care of some other small things that they had requested. Strassner Drive, just to let you know, the decorative light, that was completed back in November, so all 5 street lights work over there on that Strassner berm. Hopefully no one will hit it, knock on wood. Manchester Road, the electrician did order materials. We're just waiting to see when those materials come in. That's for over by the self-storage unit, that light that's leaning, that'll be replaced, and then the cabinet will be replaced. There were some lights that were out by the car wash and Joy Luck. Those are fixed, so everything should be functioning down at that eastern end. Switching gears, sewer lateral program. As you're aware, the board passed Resolution 1575, so, I'm sure your constituents will be anxious to hopefully postpone something if they know there's a problem, because it'll go from 3,500 to 4,250. So the new ceiling is activated on January 1, 2026. The Motive GPS trial, we did get one unit installed in truck 2. We're waiting for one of our other trucks to be repaired and returned. It did not come back today, but if it's there tomorrow, we'll pop the other unit in. I included some screenshots in this department update. So some of the neat things that it can do would be with the telematics. So it'll tell us like fluid readings, like how much diesel fuel's in there, the DEF fluid, which is the diesel exhaust fluid, the engine and coolant temperatures, idle time, fuel consumption, the odometer reading, the hour readings, all that stuff you can just query on one screen and see what's happening with the truck. There was something wrong with the live stream. They're going to correct that. We've got a meeting with them Tuesday, but you're able to see the video snippets. It just doesn't like show it like while it's in operations. It's just like brief little intervals. But it does have very clear resolution. We were able to take a look at that. So I'm pretty confident that that's going to be something we'd want to roll out with the sanitation department, in the future once we get the second one going. The other or last item I put on our street sweeping schedule, we're not sweeping streets because of the salt. We don't want to pick up any salt and have the corrosion impact the street sweepers. So it's parked in the garage bays over here. And once the weather clears sometime in 26, we'll run it again. What I might do where there's piles of leaves is just use the broom attachment on our skid steer and just do a couple spot pickups where there's clumps that I guess they were pushed with snow or whatever, and now there's just, it's weird little piles on certain streets.
I just have one quick one, Dan.
Yeah.
Alderman Gold made a comment that down in the park by the tunnel, and we may have talked about this, but the south side, that light that's at the fork of the path isn't working.
Oh, okay. It's a street light?
Yeah, it's an overhead on a pole.
Yeah, I wonder if it's an Ameren one or it's one of ours.
No, yeah, it's one that we installed when we did the tunnel and everything down there. You know what I'm talking about, Eric? Not? Yeah.
Okay. I'll have staff look at that.
Yeah. Now, how are those timed? Are they tied into the street or?
No, we actually, all those lights and the parking lot lights are tied into a computer system that we control. So we'll be able to check that one out.
Do you control the tunnel light that way too?
Yes, it has its own timer, but yes, it is a computer system.
I went through this morning and it was maybe 10 till 7, and the tunnel light was off. It was fine because it was getting light, but I thought, it just would be nice to have the tunnel light on. So I don't know if we can keep it on until maybe 7:15 or something, just for the next month or
during the
two while
winter.
it's extra dark.
I'll ask staff to look at all the timing on those.
Okay.
We typically look at that when daylight savings, but it is getting darker. It's staying darker longer.
It's just so short. The days
Yep.
are so short. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 7 is the consent agenda, and we just have the minutes from last month's meeting. Can we also approve that by acclamation? We'll do that. And Dan, you better run back up here because I think you have under old business 8703 Rosalie Avenue. Driveway that was,
Yeah, this was brought about, I know planning had notified the property owner. Public Works was notified about this during that time period, so we took a look at it. I know Parks has looked at it, but this is at the northwest corner of Rosalie and Swim Club at 8703 Rosalie. The city owns the property. There's a gravel driveway. The resident at 8703 uses that gravel driveway as a supplemental parking area. They do have a permanent conforming driveway on the west side of their property to a detached garage. So the question becomes, do we want to, I know that they didn't, I'll back up. The way it was supposed to or could be allowed would be permanent pavement. They did get quotes. It was more than $6,000. There'd be an agreement between the city and them. If they wanted to use it, an easement would be granted. But there's no guarantee that we won't improve it, and then they paid money, they'd no longer get to use it. So it sounds like they don't want to put forth the money to have that as a permanently paved driveway. Therefore, we reserve the right to remove it. Do we want to remove it, and if so, what time? You know, I was estimating around spring because I don't want to do it too soon. If you did that, then it's hard to restore it. You know, there's still moisture in the ground. You know, you would scrape up the gravel. I know there could be some landscaping that Parks could put in there and put seed and straw. We would extend the curb so there no longer be that curb cut with the driveway apron. I didn't know if that had been an issue for any of you in the past, but, you know.
So have we notified the residents of 8703 that we intend to grass it over?
Not yet unless, you know.
We have not.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
We got the response back from them about the cost,
Right.
and it was prohibitive.
Yes.
Especially since there was no guarantee the city could come back at any time and tear it up. So I don't believe that they have interest in doing that. And since the initial, was it an initial complaint that came through, and we're trying to just abide by the city's code, is why we engaged with the property owner. So as a deterrent, there are multiple options for the city, which is to make sure we take it out from being used by them. We've had other suggestions from elected officials to do other things there, and we talked to the city attorney about it, but it would provide, it would lead to a conflict if the city were to engage in doing that type of work for them. So this is the only solution that we've been able to legally come up with at this point.
So the recommendation is to remove the gravel, and then we'll put in a curb and do some type of landscaping at some time.
Yeah, they'd no longer be able to use it. We have not told them that, but we would need to inform them of that it would be coming soon.
And the city would then maintain the grass and be responsible for all mowing and maintaining of the landscape if we were to grass it as part of like the regular mowing of the park across the street?
Correct, Eric? Yes.
I do think most days there's 2 cars parked, at least one, if not 2 cars parked on that gravel lot. So I'm sure they'll have us, engaging in them in a conversation is probably very helpful.
We will not send a letter, we would knock on the door, right?
Yeah, I would definitely notify them in writing that this,
Ultimately,
Yeah.
but be a little bit more friendly or.
Yeah, just be sensitive that they might think something's going a different way. So I'd hate for them to be caught off guard, and
Right. We'll do
a
that.
conversation's always sometimes nicer.
yeah, and with the weather, it's like I wouldn't do anything until spring of 26.
Yeah.
Well, it looks,
No.
we need to make a recommendation to staff along those lines. Does somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to ask staff to talk to the property owner about the gravel driveway being removed.
I'll second that. And it's for the conversation, right?
Right. I mean, well. That's a start. Yeah.
Just a minute. That's a start. And then after the conversation, I believe, Dan, you have funding in your 26 budget to actually do the work.
We do, yeah, because the curb's pretty minor.
So then we would ultimately do the work once we've informed them of the decision to
I
remove
think the
it.
conversation's been had, that's why they came back with the
Back, okay.
$6,000.
Right.
And so
But
they-
she has an expectation that maybe there's no final decision, that is still under consideration.
So I guess my question is, I mean, it sounds like the options are either they put some paving down but it's still the city's land and it could be taken at any time, or it gets taken away. Has it been presented to the homeowner in that way? It has. And so the homeowner came back and does not want to do the driveway. Okay. Then I'll make a motion to recommend notifying the property manager that the gravel driveway will be removed in spring of '26.
Pulling up the email from the property owner the last time they emailed me a couple months ago.
Okay, so I haven't seen any emails, so that's why I was trying to make sure that,
Yeah, it was only to me and the other, it was Alderwoman Sims, so.
oh, I should have let you make the motion. I apologize.
No, that's fine, that's totally fine.
So I thought.
Clarifying question. So, did they ever go to the Board of Adjustment or have any other conversation about getting?
It
no?
has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
There's no avenue for that. It's
Okay.
city property.
I'll second it.
No other discussion? Let's just, all in favor, say aye.
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 So it's unanimous. All right, thank you, Dan. I guess you're sticking around for, what we got, temporary parking lot? Is that next?
Yeah, this was just to give you an update. I know this will have to go before the board in January since the current permit extension was granted. It wasn't the full 180 days, it was 90 days, so that puts us at January 26th. So some of the improvements that we looked at doing would be dust control and then drainage. That was already brought up earlier in the meeting. But as far as dust control, I found several different ways that the EPA, US EPA, allows control of fugitive dust, as they refer to it. Watering, which is something we already do. That's one of the means that you can do. Vegetation. And then the thing that interested me, which we could do since we have some equipment that could place it, would be soil stabilizers, which they refer to as palliatives. You've got like calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, and then soybean oil. I'm going to get some trial packages of it, a gallon here, or maybe I think the one's like a 5-gallon bucket of the soybean oil, and then the magnesium chloride. I also found that magnesium chloride and sometimes soybean oil, but mostly magnesium chloride, were used like for horse tracks and things of that nature, because I've been to a horse track and I don't really remember it being dusty, but they spray it and then they mix in, things like the chlorides to bind with the soil so that you don't have the dust going all over whenever they're being trampled, by horses. So I wanted to try that. I'll do that at the Public Works parking lot since there's a section that's gravel, so you can do a couple of trial areas before you roll it out next year, because I don't really think there's a dust issue now. Since you have snow and moisture, it's not dried out that I know of. But before I apply it wide scale over there, I wanted to try it, see if it discolors it or does anything that I don't like before I put it on something that I don't want to have changed too dramatically. And then as far as the drainage, I know we got to go out there and measure the slopes, but some of the ideas I had on that east side of the lot, since there's an inlet at the north and south ends of the east side, would be either a V-shaped ditch or a trapezoidal ditch, but then that would allow the water that runs off the parking lot to then go into that swale and not hopefully climb out of the swale onto the property to the east. And it would convey it to those inlets if you've got proper fall. So just need to run that through a couple equations and see if it works. And if it does, then we could do that grading sometime over the winter.
And that's work that we can do ourselves.
It is, yeah. If we're just doing grading, I know that, the dust control, that's something we would have equipment, and then we're just going to try the product and see if that works. But I was just going to bundle it all together as a package for the January meeting to show, like, this is what we're planning on doing on that north lot. The south lot, I don't think there's issues, at least none to my knowledge.
No, the V-cut idea and having like building in a drainage option seems like a nice idea.
Yeah, we considered piping, but then I didn't like piping because I can't tell if the pipe's open or closed without inspecting it. I'm like, well, with a ditch, it's simple. There's no mechanical, I don't have to worry about joints coming apart. I can see it. It can still be mowed and maintained. If it's a matter of erosion with it, you can line it and put rock on it to keep, the dirt from migrating. So I think there's some advantages there.
Especially if it solves the gentleman from earlier's concern. Just a simple solution.
It's something worth trying, I think.
No, I just want to say, could we, I know we have a lot of visitors to the park, and there were 300,000 people last year who came over the course of the year, but I'd like to see us really evaluate how much this lot is used throughout the spring, when the weather is warmer and the park is full, because just seems like a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of I don't know how much I guess we'll learn next month how much what Dan is proposing is going to cost, but I just want to make sure that this is that we're spending money on a parking lot that is really used and necessary.
We'll take a look at it.
Thank you, Dan. Move on to new business. And Dan, I think you've got some sidewalk improvements in the Brentwood Forest area.
Yes, if you recall this company, Precision Concrete Cutting, we did a pilot program with them earlier this year, and it was for Eulalie Avenue. They resolved the issue with vertical elevation differences where you have tripping hazards. So basically from Brentwood Boulevard to Rosalie on both sides of Eulalie, they cut out anywhere that there was that defect. If the slabs were too far gone, if they were cracked or anything like that, where they're too settled and didn't involve cutting, then we replaced those slabs. Brentwood Forest also did its own pilot program on some private sidewalks, like the same process that we liked. So they decided as a board to move it forward to all of their sidewalks that are private in 2026. So their cost is roughly $160,000, maybe up to $170,000. They asked us, would we consider doing the public areas that they know have tripping hazards? So I had PCC evaluate them, give us this quote. So that would take care of High School, Wrenwood, all directions of Swan Circle, Swallow, Oriole, Thrush, Place, and Eager. So I thought that was a good deal. It's roughly $30,000 for over 1,400 linear feet of sidewalks. And they give you a 3-year warranty, just like with Eulalie, where if it's more than 3/8 of an inch vertical difference because trees are lifting up, they'll come back out, do it again for free. This would be a way to really push, Ward 4 and get it done. And kind of like we do with trees, you'd stay focused on 1, 2, and 3 and try to do these more cyclically and not necessarily all over the place, sporadically.
I like that I can appreciate that Brentwood Forest is putting in a decent amount and we're just making it all on one level. So that seems like a decent idea. And I will also say it was a nice way with like trees on Eulalie that it cut into slabs and really made a difference. You don't have to rip up the slab. You graded it. So it was a nice way not to have to replace giant slabs that had been, had changed elevations due to trees or time.
And it can do up to a 2-inch cut. Your typical slab's 4 inches thick, so if it's pretty far lifted up, they can still cut across and make it ADA compliant for that joint.
Yeah, and by going in with Brentwood Forest, we're saving some money by being...
Yeah, the mobilization is reduced, so they said, well, if you do it, then they'll apply the city discount, and, we would bring this to the board in January, approve the agreement if this committee approves it.
Need a motion to forward on to the board.
Correct.
Entering into a contract with Precision Concrete Cutting in the Brentwood Forest area.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gold?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes. All right, Dan, moving on down to next item is regarding Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement.
Yes, we already have a mutual aid agreement. It was approved in 2023. The list of cities is included with your packet, so it's Baldwin, Brentwood, Chesterfield, Clayton on down the line. Since we approved it in 2023, other cities have been added to the agreement, so like City of Wentzville and a few others. City of Chesterfield manages the overall agreement, and the cities, getting all the information together from the other cities. They would like to redo the mutual aid agreement to incorporate Wentzville and these other cities that have been added since 23. And they just asked that we do this before the end of February 2026. So we were presented it here. We did actually I put that blurb in there in May of 25. So whenever we contacted the city of Baldwin, they brought their wood chipper and we were able to chip up limbs. This is for, an emergency, act of God type event. And there's a list of different equipment, anywhere from, chainsaws, chippers, generators, light towers. If we need that, if ours is being used, and they have the available equipment, then there's no cost. They'll bring it and we just have to fuel it up. And this covers insurance and all the different liability, things that can go wrong in that agreement.
A nice way so that communities don't have to double up on equipment. We can do sharing.
Right.
Is there labor involved in these?
We didn't have, we had labor from St. Anne. I think that may have been.
Sometimes they offer
yeah.
it up at no cost to the city that they're assisting.
Yeah.
And are we pretty well trained in the equipment that we tend to borrow?
Yeah, Baldwin actually brought someone with their chipper to show us how to use it and, maintain it and fill it up. And, once they left, we were able to use it. I know Parks used one of them. We had our own. And they were used consistently for at least a couple-week period.
What do you need from us?
Just a motion to take it to the full board, and then we'll bring that resolution and new agreement to the full board.
All motion.
Second.
All right, we have I guess we'll do a roll call vote on this.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Gold.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes. Got our second citizen comment. Nobody here, anybody online?